Welcome back to the Cyber Prophets. This time, we're gonna go and prophesize about the future of technology as always, but to be precise, in the future of the freelancing world. A word that is very popular, especially in these times. However, this time, the co-host is not gonna be the co-host, it's gonna be the interviewee. In the corporate world, or let's say in the freelancing world to be precise, he's known as Andreas Ellerbrock. And this time, my co-host is going to be Edgar Regalado, who will tell you more about AnoraxDev in his secret life as Andreas Ellerbrock.
Thank you very much, Federico. And that's right. I'm going to be your co-host tonight. And I am glad that we have the chance to interview AnoraxDev, which is better known as Andreas Ellerbrock. He has more than 5 years of experience in the corporate world, but he decided to do a career change and move to the freelancing world. And now he has been working as a freelancer for more than 2 years. He has completed independently and successfully more than 13 projects, and he is currently cataloged as one of the 3 top percent of best freelancers in his platform. This is something to be proud of, and we are proud to have you here, Andreas. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now, Andreas, can you tell us why do you think freelancing is so important in these times?
Oh man, like so many reasons. So the real reason why freelancing is taking off right now is because so far corporate America, that business model, that structure worked really well for the industrial era, but we are no longer in the industrial era. We are in the information age. So freelancing is basically the type of work that best fits or best takes advantage of the age of information. We have so many tools right now, especially computers, the internet, mics, everything's getting, all these things, the equipment is getting so cheap then that it just a better solution for anybody wanting to do work on a computer. The corporate world, it's way too strict, way too stiff. And because it's so tight that it cannot really adapt to the way things are working right now. They're not taking advantage of all the tools available, because if they did so, they would have to pretty much radically change the way they're doing business. And that's why so many people are fleeing their corporate world, because it's too restrictive. And not only that, it doesn't, it's really inefficient. Um, I remember how when I was, for example, working at one of the companies that I was in corporate America, most of the time that I was there, I didn't spend it coding. I spent like a good portion of my time doing interviews, sorry, not interviews, meetings, talking with the team, and like a lot of time procrastinating because there was not enough work for me to do sometimes. So sometimes when you have a full-time job, sometimes you have more work, sometimes you have less work, but you're getting paid the same. So, and this with a whole host of inefficiencies.
You're totally right. This is a common denominator that we hear nowadays. The corporate world is too stiff. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There are many rules, and things do not move as quickly as we as developers expect, right? Is this the reason why you decided to do a career change, Andreas?
Well, it's many reasons. It's many reasons. Okay, so I worked in corporate America for 5 years, almost six. So the first 3 years I had an internship, and then the company got acquired. So everybody at the bottom pretty much got laid off. So I got laid off. And then then I moved to another company that was related to the healthcare industry. And right when the 2016 elections happened and Trump won, saying that he was going to get rid of Obamacare, et cetera, et cetera. So the company that I work for, they panicked when he won, and then like they decided to do huge layoffs everywhere. The entire IT department was moved to India. And then I met a friend of mine who happened to have an agency, a software development agency, and I asked him for to help me get a job. He got me the interview, and then he told me that it was up to me to get the job after that. So I went to the interview. I passed with flying colors. I got the job, and they told me, well, since we don't know you that well, we're going to give you a 3-month contract, and if everything goes well, we're going to extend it, right? Well, so I did my job as expected. I did everything well, and when the 3 months ended, uh, they just laid me off again because that company too had been acquired. Same thing over and over again. So the third time I realized, okay, there's something wrong here. Like if I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be, I'm being responsible, I'm having discipline, I'm delivering results, and I'm doing my job with excellency. How come I keep losing my job all the time? And that's when I realized that the corporate world, that was a trend that is going on the downside right now. It's a dying trend. And then I thought, well, if it is a dying trend and it's not gonna get any better, then might as well just embrace it and move to freelancing, which is way more flexible, and way more way more resilient than uh, having a regular job.
And when you did this transition to become a freelancer, what was the hardest challenge that you faced?
Man, like actually keeping up with it, like doing just being showing up on time and doing the work, that was the hardest because it's really discouraging in the beginning. um, I was fortunate to meet my first clients, not through Upwork or like through any boards, but I actually knew the guy in a conference from that was organized by a writer that I really like. Anyway, I just told him this was just like days after I get laid off. So I told him what's going on, and this guy told me, so, but are you sure that you got laid off because the company got acquired and not because you were a bad employee, right? Yeah, of course. So if you give me your boss's contact info and I call him, he's gonna have like good things to say about it, right? Of course. And it just ended there. And at this time I was living in California. So when I because at this point I had 5 years of experience, but that was too much for the lower jobs and not enough for the senior jobs, so nobody would hire me. So I decided to just like leave, sell everything, and leave to a cheaper place and start over. And I got my first contract from that guy, and then I just started getting more and more. But the first 10 contracts or the first 9 contracts were really badly paid. Like I was making less than minimum wage for 2018 and 2019, and I
Ooh,
was
okay.
like, and I was working. Yeah, so I remember that in 2019 I was in 3 separate times I was in negative numbers in my bank account. So like that stress of just like watching your bank account like almost empty and thinking, how the hell am I going to pay my bills for next month? It's so yeah, like it was really difficult. Also, I don't know, this the constant competition of like constantly updating my skills, because like everybody's doing the same. Everybody wants to go to the top. It was really difficult.
So it sounds pretty challenging, and especially like as you say at the beginning, the very first contracts were very low paid, and you have to somehow keep motivating yourself. But could you please, Andreas, elaborate on how did you get your first client? This is something very interesting, and also for our audience. And maybe you could also tell us what kind of project was this very first project that you got?
For sure. So there is this blogger. His name is Tynan. He's done all sorts of cool things. He's been an entrepreneur. He's spent a long time living in an RV. He's traveled the world. He has like a cruising service. He has a blog. He's done so many things. He's a really adventurous guy, and I read him a lot because he gave really good ideas. So it was a big surprise when I saw like he writing a blog saying that he was going to make an event where we would meet in Vegas with him, and he would give us a chance to ask him questions, and he would dedicate like allocate time for each one of us. So it was a really small group. We were like 10 people, and it was expensive too. But so I bought the ticket in November and I got laid off in February. So I so I bought the ticket to that event, and then I got laid off, and the conference just happened to be 3 days later. So I mean, I had all sorts of questions that I wanted to ask him, but like pretty much getting laid off just dropped everything, and I just went like with nothing, just with an open mind, like I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna see what happens, and whatever happens, happens. That was my reasoning. So I go there and everybody started talking. He was a really nice guy, and I told him my situation, and then I met this guy called Kevin. So again, he was the one who asked me about my boss and everything. So fast, and everybody left in good terms. It was really cool. Fast forward a few months later when I'm in Houston and unemployed, and I just texted him, "Hey man, like how are you doing? Like, how's everything going?" I wasn't really like expecting anything. I generally just wanted to say hi. So he told me, "Hey, it just so happens that I'm in Houston too. How about we have a cup of coffee?" So I went there and we met at a bar and we had a beer, I think. And he came with another guy who happened to be his business partner. And he told me, "Okay, well, so here's the situation. We have a real estate business, and we have the problem that when we are showing the property to a lead, we need to have like a computer open with a spreadsheet just for extra things that they want in the apartment. Let's say that maybe a door needs to be repaired, maybe they need to change something in the roof, maybe some changes in the bathroom, so maybe an extra slot in the kitchen, etc. Like little things that slowly would add up, and they were doing it on Excel, and it was really uncomfortable. So they told me, "Hey, how about can you make us an app, a mobile app, where we can like just do that really easily, so to make our job better?" And I say, "Hey, of course I can, sure I can." So that's how it started, and I got the contract, and the cool thing is that when I got the contract, I was this close like of running out of money. So yeah, and then we just started like that was the first time that I actually write a whole application from scratch. I had to design the database and doing the back end and doing the front end and doing the hosting and the support. So I mean, it was, and at the same time, I had a full-time job at a company. Eventually, like I got fired from there because I was paying more attention to my client than them. But I don't care. Like I was actually happy when that happened. I said to myself, well, now I can fully focus on freelancing. So yeah, so I started working, and that was my very first contract. And I'm really fortunate because getting the first one is always the hardest part. But for me, it wasn't that difficult because I happened to know somebody.
So you could say that your acquaintances help you get your first contract. Is
Oh,
that right?
hell yeah. Hell yeah. Like networking is half of the equation, and being good at your job is the other half.
Great, great. And you also mentioned that you develop a mobile app for them. Is this what you specialize in?
Yes. So when I was in like corporate world, I started with web development and slowly moved towards mobile. But and I tried like all sorts of different things. I remember trying EXTJS. I remember like trying Xamarin. I remember trying even Swift. So like I took I learned from all of these things, but decided to go for React Native because it's better aligned with my web development skills. But even that was after a very long time of experimentation because like the first app I wrote it with Angular. No, so sorry, Ionic, but the Ionic framework uses Angular. So and like I'm slowly just refining that part of mobile development.
Now that we spoke about the clients, what is the process or how do you get the clients? Because you said the first one was about networking, but then you went in a new direction. How do you get the clients? Because this is the hardest question or hardest part.
Right, right. Okay, so I use Upwork as a platform for freelancing, and by the way, that a platform is for all jobs that can be done with a computer, not necessarily just coding. You can do graphic design, you can do accounting, you can do call center, you can do copyright, you can do a lot of things on Upwork. So I go to Upwork and I start searching, and there's the list of all the jobs that potential clients are posting, and I choose the one that have a better match with my skills, and then apply, and then repeat over and over and over again, like until I get something, because it actually like it actually it's actually costly to apply for a job. There is this thing called connects, which is basically like an upward currency where you have, if you want to apply for a job, you have to spend two connects, or maybe you have to spend four connects. So in the basic plan, they give you like so many connects per month, which is usually not enough. So I ended up paying for the premium service where they give you way more per month, and they let you like purchase them in packages. So every time I apply a job, I have to spend connects. So I have to choose very carefully what are the jobs that I'm going to be applying for. I usually have like 4 or 5 tabs on my browser, one for React, one for JavaScript, one for Python, one for Angular. So I'm constantly refreshing them because every 10 minutes or so a new job popped out sometimes. So I just start applying, and whenever I get a response from a client, we just keep talking, and then we discuss the project, we discuss the problem. Then I usually tell them, okay, yes, I can do it. We talk, estimations of time and etc. And if everything goes well, they send me the contract, and I accept it, and then I'm working with them.
And you mentioned that you use Upwork. This is like the platform that you use for getting your freelance projects. Did you use
Correct.
in the past any other platform, or do you have experience using any other platform?
No, only Upwork.
And why did you choose specifically this one?
Because a friend of mine told me so about it. So I remember that I was on the phone with him, and I was worried, and I was venting that I was running out of money, and he told me, wait, why don't you use Upwork? I'm doing the same thing, and so far it's doing well. So why don't you try it? And then I thought, yeah, really, why haven't I tried it yet? So so I decided to experiment again. Like need really makes you do things like that. Necessity.
Okay, now that let's say you have said that you have had like the two sides of the, like, how to say, you have experience in both sides, in the freelancing world and in the corporate world, and you have had interviews in those two sides of the coin, how different are those interviews? For example, when you have an interview with a client and when you have an interview with a new position.
Oh man, it's night and day. It's completely opposite because when you're in a corporate world, okay, you're going to apply for a job. Many times you don't even know what you're gonna be doing. Like it isn't until the end or like when you actually meet them that you have to ask them what are we gonna be building, and the interviews just are really technical, right? They ask you all sorts of questions to know just how much you know about a language or a technology or a framework or whatever, and then it takes and then it's okay, so we're gonna go for the second interview, which is going to be next week, and then you have to wait another week to get the interview. So there's all the regulations, all the papers you have to sign, registering for health, for free healthcare, or no benefits, that's the word, when you have to register for benefits and filling your W-2 and all the legal work, right? But with the freelancing world is really different because from of all the contracts that I've done, only one of my clients was a programmer, and he didn't really ask me many technical questions, just like a few about Angular. But most of the clients, they're the end users. They're the ones who say, okay, this is the thing that I need to get done. Can you do it? That's the only thing that they care about. Like they don't care if you're using .NET or Python or Java or whatever. They probably don't even know what that is. The only thing that they care about is that you actually like can deliver it. So I remember, for example, that I was talking to a guy who built a scheduling software uh, for workers in the construction business, and he built it himself from scratch, but it had bugs, and it was really crappy made. So he told me what was the problem that they had, and he asked me how would you solve it. And I would say, oh, I'll probably move into relational databases is a good idea, and this and that. So, if you're building, if he built it with Angular JS, and so he told me how I would, improve the security, how I could make the workflow run smoother, etc. So I gave him my solution, and then he said, "Okay, cool. So I'm talking to other guys right now, but I'll let you know tomorrow if what's going on." So he called me the next day, and we had a conversation. We negotiate rates and all the stuff, and okay, you're hired. I'm sending you the contract right now, and that was it. So because this contract, so in Upwork, you have two modes. Um, you can have fixed price contracts, and you get paid by milestones. So for example, finished if when you do the login system, I'm gonna give you your first check, and when you get, let's say Google Maps running on the app live, then I'm gonna give you the second check, and you do it by goals, or you hire them by the hour, and then they're just logging hours, and there's that. This one was a $1,000 contract, and for those $1,000, we agreed that I would fix 5 bugs from his app, which was a terrible idea, a bad mistake, because it was like, I don't know. I put way more work in just trying to understand how he built it, that it took me so much time that it was like, actually, I wasn't making a lot of money for it. But I mean, that's fine. That's how you learn. And then I have other contracts where the guy like was semi-technical. Like for example, he knew basically like what everything did, but didn't really go under the hood. So he knew things on a very superficial level, but at least he could ask me, okay, so we have this app that we want to build, and we have this problem. How would you solve it? We had this thing that was built with Flask, and it's, for example, one of the problems that he has is that he had built an application with Flask, and it was already failing because it was getting too big. Like Flask applications are supposed to be really small. So I told him, well, why don't we switch to Django, which is way more robust and can do way more, and it's better built for it has an ORM, it has a lot of cool things. No need to install any new libraries. So yeah, he thought that it made sense, and so he gave me the green light to start it from scratch on Django. So I don't know. There was this lady who she had a home moving business, and she wanted me to build an app to track the motion of the trucks as they were moving from place to place, something like an Uber. And she tried building it herself, and she realized that she couldn't because it was just way too complicated. Like she built the login system, and got it, couldn't get it work, so she sent it to me. And the first contract, the first test was, okay, get it to sign in, get it to log in, like get the basic security working. So I did it in like 2 days, and she was really impressed and she liked it. And a month later, she called me, "Hey, do you want to finish it?" So so I ended up building that. It was really cool because like it was. I used so many Google libraries at the same time. I used Google Maps, Google Places, Google Autocomplete, Google Firebase, Google real-time database, etc. So yeah, so she knew basic coding, like she could change the styles, for example, in the React, right, but nothing more. So I mean, I've had all sorts of clients, some that barely know how to turn on the computer, and sometimes that they have even more knowledge than me. So it ranges, and you get used to talking to them at their level of knowledge. For example, like to the guy that we spoke about moving to Django, there was no need for me to tell him like exactly how I was going to set up the ORM, for example. That he didn't care and probably didn't know about that. So it's something that you practice.
Now let's go a little bit in depth with something at least I have experienced. That in the corporate world, they ask you many times about your portfolios, but in my experience, the recruiters, they don't always check them. And you just send something that generally is there, but they don't really look at it. I remember that once even someone asked me for, hey, send us a link of an app that you would like that we test us. They never tested because, hey, I have statistics and I know that they never downloaded from that country, and I was rejected the next day. So how about in the freelancing world? Do they really check the portfolios, or or is it different, that experience?
Okay, so the main thing that they look at is your profile. So because in my profile, all my clients, they get to rate me after when a contract is finished. And right now I have an average of 5 stars, and I get to rate them too, and they add reviews. So what the client can say about my performance in their own words has a lot of weight. Like because I really like that all the reviews that my clients wrote, they all say they have a lot of things in common. For example, they all say that I'm really good at communication, and and that's the first one. So the first one is the profile, and after that they ask me for my portfolio, which is on my website. So the portfolio is really important. It's not a deal breaker. Not sometimes for some companies or for some clients it is a deal breaker. For others it isn't. But generally, like I've managed to get jobs without get a portfolio. And the reasoning is that like some of the, in fact, most of the projects that I did, I had to sign an NDA. So I cannot really share it with anybody, except in those circumstances when they let me do it explicitly. So yeah, it's a little complicated because, for example, the app that I did that was like Uber. like the truck tracker. That one is it's a private thing. It's something that can only be downloaded from within the company, right? It's not available on the App Store for everybody.
Yes, I can totally understand that these NDAs are usually everywhere and are totally basically impossible for us as software developers to showcase the code in this sense. And now, Andreas, I have a very important question for you. When you were talking about the way that you get your clients, you mentioned that you have certain connects per month. And if I understand correctly, this kind of limits the number of clients that you can contact every month. Am I right?
Correct.
So if you're limited to the clients that you can contact, how do you usually work? Like, do you have any criteria for picking up your clients, or are you basically open to every single client that comes to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I check their profile too. For example, like there is the status of if they verify their payment methods or not. So if a client hasn't verified their payment methods, that's a red flag.
That totally
Of
makes sense.
if I remember that this guy wasn't a client of mine because I refused to work for him, but this guy sent me an invitation for a contract, and he had a 3-star review, so a 3-star average. So okay, I thought, so what's going on here? So I actually went to his profile and went to see what their employees had like, or what other freelancers had to say about him, and basically like they all said that this guy was really cheap and he didn't want to pay them, or he wanted to pay them as little as possible. So when I see that, that is another red flag. If a client doesn't has to have zero contracts and then is putting a contract offering $50,000, that's another red flag. I mean, it's usually bullshit. So I pay attention to the description of the product as well, because the more detailed I can tell, that the more serious they are about it. And when they're very clear or on what the skills that they want. Okay, we want somebody that is really good with React, and this is what we're going to do, etc., etc. Okay, then I can consider it. And other thing is that I make sure that the description of the product or the skill set really matches my portfolio. Because if I'm gonna be taking applying for a contract that wants me to build an app in Swift, then it's a waste of time because I'm not an expert on Swift.
It makes sense. Now, based on your experience and what you have seen in the freelancing world, what are the most demanded technologies? And what is the most common job that you can see people are looking for in Upwork?
Oh well, so web is not is WordPress, Shopify, things like that, and and for the actual coding, it's React and Python. Those are the big ones. React, Python, more specifically Django. Those are in huge demand right now. Also a little bit of Ruby. I have not seen many jobs for Java developers. I have not seen many jobs for C# developers. But everything that has to do with JavaScript is pretty much like in really high demand.
Oh, wow, that's very, very good to know. So for every JavaScript developer out there, better sign up for Upwork right now. And I have a very, very important question. You mentioned that most of the people that post jobs there are usually the final users of the app. That also gives us the thought that they do not know much about programming. So have you seen offer in complex areas such as computer science or software architecture, writing complex algorithms and that kinds of stuff?
No, so like most. I mean, I'm pretty sure such things exist. I'm pretty sure if I started, I could probably find something like that. But generally, like the user just wants a regular app. Like usually, it's not that scientific, not that deep. They just want something that works and that solves a problem.
Well, I guess everyone is trying to solve problems. You were one of those, let's say, mysterious people who had the chance to get a client when he was working in the corporate world. But do you think that someone like, let's say, Edgar or me had any chance to get a job in Upwork? Because, hey, you said, well, Edgar is a Java developer, I'm a C# developer. Well, although I know a lot of things about JavaScript too, but my point is that we are from the corporate world. And if we would like to start in the freelancing world, do you think that anyone like us could have a chance?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like the factor on whether you can get a contract in Upwork or not, it's pretty much your attitude. Because when I started my first contract, I remember that the backend I wrote it in Web API and the front end in Ionic. But then when I started seeing, okay, nobody's asking for C sharp skills, then that means that I need to update. That's when I started taking Flask, is when I started taking Python. Also, okay, so when I did the first one in Ionic, then I saw, damn, nobody wants anything in Ionic anymore. Everybody wants Angular. So the next contract I had to learn Angular. So and I had to delay Angular, and then a little later I saw, hey, people are asking more jobs in React Native than Angular, so I gotta learn React Native. Like here's the thing, like if you're willing to adapt and if you're flexible, you can make it as a freelancer, because unlike the corporate world. I'm pretty sure you're constantly competing in the corporate world, but it's different, like because you're competing probably like with your peers, like you're competing probably inside the company. But freelancing, you're competing with everybody. I'm competing with the entire country. So that means that I constantly have to update. I constantly have to take online courses. I haven't made it like I haven't done this as faithfully as I would like to, but I would like to. I think if I took, like, for example, 3 online courses a year and actually like applied that knowledge in contracts, when I do it, I'm flying. Like everything goes well. But the point when I start stagnating, that's when like I can see that I'm getting in trouble, because like I start losing money. For example, my latest in my latest contract, we built a survey platform, and the front end was with React. And because I was doing more of the back end. My client like hired more front end developers. They hired like a small agency, like of 4 or 5 people, because they were not only front end developers, but they also designer. They were graphic. They made the design and the development, right? So I was basically in charge of them. I was telling them, okay, this is the next step. This is what we're doing. And then the first time that I saw their code, I couldn't understand what they did. And then I realized, damn, they're using React hooks, and I don't have experience with hooks. So I told him, dude, why aren't you using Redux? Why aren't you doing it like this? And he told me, well, because that's outdated. Like we've been doing this for 2 years. So then I realized, damn, this is a problem. So I had to take another course, and I had to update on that.
Wow, this whole environment of the freelancing sounds very competitive to me. But Andreas, when Federico mentioned about becoming a freelancer, it rang a bell on me. Like I'm feeling that I would like to try, but like to basically from your the benefits of choosing to be a freelancer over a corporate world. Like Is there anything that you cannot get in the corporate?
Oh man, there are so many things, so many reasons. Let's start with money, right? I mean, what are the chances of you getting your salary doubled in the corporate world?
Oh, like in 10 years, maybe.
Exactly, exactly. But you're not gonna make a lot more money after you join the company. Like when you join, you negotiate a rate, and that's it. And like you're gonna stay there. Doesn't matter how long you stay there. Your rate is not really going to increase by much.
That's
But
true.
with freelancing, I have a habit or like a method that the first contract, like I made almost no money, or no, the second I did almost no money. But as I started getting more contracts, I have a rule that I increase my hourly rate by $10 every time I finish a contract, and like my clients are willing to pay it. So
Mm, but there are other benefits, and this is maybe where you could help us understand how do you handle social care or other relevant benefits that common jobs gives you. Because let's say if you get sick in the US, $5,000 for calling an ambulance is
mhm.
not a nice joke.
Right. Well, I mean, private insurance. Like I charge more to my clients, but I use that money to pay for my healthcare and all that stuff. And I like it because like I get to choose it. It runs my way. When you like in the corporate world, no, like this is our plan and take it or leave it. And it's usually like really inefficient. It's money badly spent. So if I just get that kind of money in cash, I can stretch it way more and get the same kind of service. Okay, that's first one. Second one, vacations, right? Like in the corporate world, you get 2 days, 2 weeks vacations, and that's it. But with freelancing, I'm my own boss. Like I get to choose when I rest and when I don't. Now the catch is that in the first couple of jobs you're gonna be working way harder on freelancing than on the corporate world. You're gonna be working twice as hard and twice as long, and no breaks, no vacations, no nothing because I mean you're on survival mode, right? But like right now I it's been like a little over 2.5 years that I've been working on freelancing, and it is until now that I took a vacation. Like I mean, in order to get to top rated, I spent 2.5 years pretty much just locked in my room working. I had no social life. I didn't go out. Like I didn't spend a lot of money. I was just like grinding. But now that I'm like doing well and things are doing better, I spent two months doing nothing.
Wow, that's incredible. That's a privilege that in the corporate world we cannot basically take. But as I see it now, it requires a lot of work as well. And it's just basically a trade-off.
It is a
So
trade-off, yes.
let me ask you, Andreas, will you ever come back to the corporate world?
Never, never,
Why?
never. Okay, so, okay. So when you are in the corporate world, you're not like I don't know about you guys, but I never really they never give me a project to myself. No, like it was a team, and I'm only building like a little part of a big thing, right? Or worse, just maintenance job, fixing bugs, like making things look a little pretty, improving here, improving there. But with freelancing, I get to build an entire project from scratch, from design to development to debugging to release to support, like all of those stages, and they have really helped me grow a lot as a developer. I can tell you that in 2 years I've learned way more in freelancing than 5 years in corporate world. I know things that I like. It's night and day, like, because even though when I was in the corporate world I was making decent money, I didn't really like believe in myself. Like I felt that I was not really living up to my potential. but instead of building really cool things, I'm here like basically just fixing bugs, doing maintenance, and browsing Reddit. So get into, because here's the thing, like when you start freelancing, you're not just a programmer anymore. I mean, you gotta now I'm a salesman. I'm selling myself. I have to do marketing for myself. I have to I have to learn to talk to people and be diplomatic and solve conflicts and solve disagreements. So it's all, and on top of that, I have to write good code, right? So it's a big difference. The other
And
one,
I, mhm.
the other one is the freedom that I choose what I want to work with and what I don't want to work with. I mean, there are clients that I refuse to work with because they were just like too difficult. And I you know, it's funny because like I spent so much time just working alone with the client, and when I joined the team for my previous contract, it was like it was difficult. I had to get used to it. I mean, the freedom too. I I worked in. I can be wherever I want. Like I can be anywhere in the world as long as I have my computer and an internet connection, and I can do my job, and my clients don't care. They don't care where I am. They don't care who I am. They don't care what I do as long as I deliver. In fact, some of my clients, I don't even know them. Like I don't even know what they look like. I only know their names, and they only know my names. Like it's so if you're somebody who values anonymity, I mean it's not fully anonymous, but it helps, you know.
Well, it's understandable. There is one thing that I have faced, especially because in my case I'm publishing a book, and it's related to where you need to have a bank account. Do you need,
Hmm.
when you join to Upwork, do you need to have a bank account in a specific country? Because some guys, hey, they can pay you through PayPal, but I'd say PayPal is not available everywhere. I know that in El Salvador we
Hmm.
have been fighting for around 9 years, and this is still not available. So maybe that's
Yeah,
something.
I mean, if you are outside of the U.S., I mean, for the U.S., you just have to have a bank account, and they just
Hmm.
what they require you. So, but if you're outside, it's a little complicated. I have a friend of mine who he created Accounting Payoneer, which is a banking service in England, and they give you a debit card. So Upwork like makes a direct deposit to his bank account, and he just spends it on with his card.
That makes sense. And now that we're talking about everything that's required to be a freelancer, including these bank accounts, could you please tell us, Andreas, like specifically some points or let's say some process that you follow in order to secure a project? What is the
Hmm.
procedure you follow?
Right. So, okay, by this point, I already applied for a job, or sometimes they contact me, and by this, and I'm starting to talk to the client. So basically, this starts a process of back and forth, where first they chase me, and then I have to chase them, and we start talking. And well, and in the phone calls that we're having, I really have to perform really well because who knows how many people the client is talking to at the same time. So but I always it's about selling yourself. I always sell them not only that I'm going to give them the product that they want. I always tell them, hey, I'm gonna tell you what it is that we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. I'm gonna give you like real quality. I give you something that is not gonna break, is not gonna have bugs, is gonna be like in perfect shape when I deliver it, and we're gonna be meeting like every week or so if you want, and I'm gonna be showing you progress, or I'm gonna be asking you questions. So because I really care about like the client getting what they want and being satisfied. I think that's the number one, like making the client, like making them aware that you really are committed to their idea. That's what they really want to hear. So And then after that, if I get it, then they send me the contract and I accept, and then I can start working right away.
So usually it's mostly about the selling process, like telling them that you will go the extra mile for their project.
Exactly, and not only that, but I mean, and in order to prove that I will go the extra mile, go to my profile, see what my clients have to say about me. So, so yeah, that's my process.
Now, in our case, we're speaking in English, and yeah, we're speaking about the United States. But do you believe that, for example, someone from El Salvador, someone, let's say, from Latin America, or even, let's say, from Europe, want to jump to Upwork? Do they need to speak certain languages to get a job? And if it's yes, what is the required level to secure a job? Because, as you said, everything is about sales, call, phone call, phone call.
Okay, so I mean, you don't have to speak English if you don't want to, but you're pretty much going to be limited to doing business with Spain or with Mexico. So like that, if you that's like the highest you can hope for, because for if you want to get a contract from people, where the real money is, you have to speak English. You have to, and you have to speak it fluently. You have to speak it at a conversation level, because like people they don't really have patience for you if you cannot communicate yourself well, because communication is everything with a client.
So, Andrea, so far you have mentioned that you will require English to approach the countries where the real money is. You will also need to develop your sales skills in order to get a client. And on top of that, you will need to open a bank account. But can you please recommend the audience what other tools do you use? Like, I don't know, maybe you use some tool for project management or some tool
Mm.
for checking your code. What kind of tools could you recommend the
Okay,
audience?
so the tools that I use really depend on the complexity of the project. So when I was in my last contract, that I was in a team of 5, we were using Slack to communicate. We were using Gmail, and we were putting everything on GitHub, and we were using Asana as well for project management, to keep track of everything. Uh, for for contracts that are smaller, or for contracts where it's just me and the client, I usually don't need to do things that are that fancy, because I just show him, well, Zoom, of course, for the video conference, or Skype, but clients usually prefer Zoom. And so I yeah, it's when it's one to one, I tell them, okay, this is what I'm going to show you next week, and I'm going to show you how it works. Oh, not necessarily how it works, but I'm gonna this showcase. I want you to see it work, because sometimes, like many times, the client doesn't really know what he wants. So I do things exactly as they told me, and then, you know what? Actually, I don't like it. Can you change this? Can you change that? That's why I like to go like little by little, to make sure that I don't deliver something and then the changes have to be too big. I use the notepad a lot, because, well, not necessarily the notepad, but I use TextMate. But same thing, just to keep notes for each contract that I run. So for each contract, I have the project, and then I have a text file when I say notes. Okay, this is what the project is going to do. This is what the goals that the client wants. And then I just write, like, for the tasks. Okay, number one, open the project on GitHub. Number two, like, start your repository. Number three, build a login system, etc., etc. Because since it's just me, like, I don't need to use the Asana for something so small. I host everything on GitHub. I have a paid account. Of course, like, since I've signed NDAs, the code the code cannot be public, so I had to keep it there. Um, for hardware, I have a MacBook Pro, and the reason is that I have to use a Mac, because I'm developing for iPhones. So you cannot run the emulator on any other system, and but the Mac OS can run emulators for iPhone and Android, so it's really convenient.
Mm. Now, I have, because you have told us about how do you manage the things, how do you control, like you have the tools, this and this, that. However, there is one thing. When you're a freelancer, you don't have a boss. You are your own boss. Let's call it like that, because of course the client is the the one who is paying. And of course he's the real boss. But my point is, how do you manage to keep yourself on track?
Stress. Stress is what gets me in check.
maybe let's go a little bit in depth in the stress
Right.
process.
Okay. So for example, let's say for example that this is not something that I'm really proud of, but the past 2 years, like since I had to sacrifice everything and spend like just working, like I just didn't care. Like I was busy on getting it to work and nothing else matters. But now that that I'm a little bit stable, I'm trying. I have my schedule basically on a spreadsheet, just to make sure that I'm gonna be like I'm gonna be doing progress with work and progress with everything else, exercise, social life, etc.
Well, you have found a very interesting way. And I have another question also that might interest our audience. And just let me know if the answer is also a stress, okay? And the thing is, well, you said that it was very hard for you at the beginning to get new clients. And I don't know, is it the same way right now or is it getting any better?
No, it's way better. It's a lot easier because, for example, I have a client that I've worked with twice already, and he just contacted me recently. Hey, I mean, I need help with something else. So since he already knows me and he already knows just how well I work, I'm always getting things like that. These days, I am getting invitations for jobs that I didn't apply for.
Wow, that's incredible.
So yeah. So and not only and it's when they contact you, it's way easier because like they're gonna have to play on your terms. So
Right.
okay, if you call me it's because of something, right? So this is my
Yeah.
rate, take it or leave it. And like like it feels, especially like when I already have a contract and when I don't really need any more, like telling somebody to go fuck themselves because they pay too little, it's really satisfying.
But now let's go a little bit deeper about that. In the beginning, I'm sure that you had stress was not even, let's say, the common word. There was another level of stress. How did you keep motivated when you couldn't get clients? Because when someone jumps into the freelancing world and you cannot get clients, even if you spend a lot of money in connects, how did you keep motivated and don't come back? Okay, let's go back to the corporate world.
Yeah, I mean, so it, so I thought about freelancing for a while, for a very long time, and when I finally decided, like, okay, I just made my mind. Like, there is no plan B for me. I'm gonna go like straight in, and I'm not gonna stop until I get it. So like having that mindset of thinking I'm gonna succeed on Upwork no matter what. That's what got me through. Because and not only that, but like I said, I want to have a comfortable life. I want to have a nice place. I want to have all these nice things, and that's fine. Like I'm willing to pay the price for it. So like before you get it, or before anybody gets into freelancing, like you have to do some like soul searching and be honest with yourself and saying, okay, am I going to be willing to pay the price for it?
That's amazing. And now, Andreas, it looks like we are just entering right now our last set of questions. The first one, and just like to wrap up, I would like you to tell our audience what would be your recommendation to start doing, if they wanted to start doing freelance today, what would be your recommendation?
Right. Okay. So the first, not this is not really necessary, but it works to like understand why it is that we're doing freelancing now. So when you realize that freelancing is pretty much the future of work and it's pretty much the future of the IT world, then you realize that yeah, it's going to be really difficult, but I have a head start on everybody that it's in corporate world right now.
So you
So when
think
you
that
so like again, so telling when you realize that freelancing is the future, then it's really not that difficult. You realize, okay, it's really my only realistic solution if I want to be better off. So that's the first one. Like the second one is you have to really want it. You have to really want it because there's so much competition at the bottom, and it's really difficult. If you're doing it just for the money, it's probably not a good idea. Like you have to want more. For example, like my independence is more important than my income. Like being able to like live my life my way, for me that's priceless. So
And do you believe that in the next 5 years there are going to be more freelancers? This is going to be a trend in the market.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just take a look at what the pandemic has done to the gig economy. I read a news not long ago that there was a mass exodus of people from like the corporate world to freelancing. That there were millions of people joining Upwork all the time. So okay, so the reason why it's going to increase is because the corporate world it's not built to withstand the pandemic. It's not built to withstand the a quarantine. It's not flexible enough. But when people realize that, and they realize, hey, if I move to the freelancing world, I might not make as much money in the first place, but I'm employed anyways. So what the hell?
So just to summarize, you have mentioned now that you believe that the freelancing is the future in the IT world, and that also money should not be your main passion, and you should not focus just on making money. And in view of that, you also mentioned that the corporate world is not built to endure things such as the pandemics that we're experiencing nowadays. And in view of that, and in view of that, you believe that freelancing is gonna be the future, then I would like to ask you, basically, other than the COVID and the pandemics, do you have any other reasons or any statistics to believe this?
Yeah, so let me check right here. I was actually reading an article recently. It's called "Thriving in the Gig Economy," written by Gian Piero Pretiglielli. So he said this was before the pandemic. He said approximately 150 million people in North America and Western Europe now work as independent contractors, most of them in knowledge-intensive industries and creative occupations. So it's a really cool article. We will probably link it in the bottom because it says it's talking about four things that we need to do in order to thrive in the gig economy. And yeah, so it's that the other reason that I see is that um, the economy is not really doing really well, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. So in hard economic times, those who adapt survive. Those who are flexible and can change and all stuff, yeah, those are the ones that are going to be thriving. Most people are going to be on welfare. So
Well,
Okay, you have heard it. That is the future of freelancing, and we have prophesied what it's gonna be like. And now, Just as a closing note, I would like to thank you, Andreas. Thank you very much for your time today. It was a pleasure to have you here as a host.
Thank you for having me. And just one last thing that I wanted to say. There are so many benefits to being a freelancer. You get to make more money. You get to be more free. You get to decide how you want to live. You get to design your own life. You get to be your own boss. It is difficult, but the trade-offs are definitely worth it. And I think everybody that is working in the IT world could benefit from considering moving to freelancing.
Thank you very much for your thoughts, Andreas, and hopefully we'll see you soon in 1 week.
Later, guys. Bye.